Welcome to Loren Reads to You. Today I'm reading The Bedtime Killer by Loren Malloy. Make sure you're following or subscribing wherever you're watching or listening to this. And remember, if you haven't heard or watched chapters 1 through 23 yet and you want to, please make sure you pause this and save this. Go watch or listen to those and then come back. I'll be here waiting. Otherwise, get comfy, get cozy, and let's get into it. Chapter 24. "What is it?" asked Lament. "That's what we're searching for," Brewster exclaimed cryptically before picking up the phone and punching in some digits. Lament looked at Thorne, who threw his hands up in a shrug of equal confusion. "Tech, this is Brewster with the Bedtime Killer Task Force. I need you to help us catch the Bedtime Killer." The detectives just looked at each other. "Yes, search nationwide. Any cold case files matching any body or any body part, mainly women's heads, which are detached from their bodies. Look for even any old cases with a mention of it, or any morgue records for any woman. I don't care about the age range or race on this one. Oh, and don't overlook any Jane Does. I'm betting it'll be no-namers that will be the ones killed, more than any woman who could be cared about or easily traced. I don't care right now about the details like that. Those things don't matter right now. What matters, what we need you to do, is send any of them that were discovered with their heads missing. Send me that info. Also, compile a file so that the ones that the body and or head were also defiled in some sexual violent way are noticed first and are on top of anyone where they weren't sexually messed with. How far should you go back? I don't know, 60 years to be safe. There is no way this guy didn't do this before, or he was taught. Call me back when it's compiled, and please, the sooner I have this information, the sooner we stop the disgusting creature." "Okay, speak then." Brewster hung up, looked at the other officers, and said to them, "We never did a nationwide search for MOs and bodies like these. Only fingerprints and DNA going that far back. Also, I'm betting we didn't get any cases that connected because they will all be Jane Does. The cases were never bothered to be worked with, which means the samples were never tested or put in the system. But that MO, that killer's signature, has connections to something in the past. I'd bet my badge on it." Brewster was lit up like he had suddenly taken a few no-dos with a bunch of energy drinks. Think about it. His fingerprints and DNA aren't in any system anywhere. What are usually the only people who have no prints in the system from birth? "Nomads," Reynolds whispered at the thought clicking in place. "Exactly. Only parents who never went to a hospital for the birth of their kids, who were also constantly traveling from town to town, would never be in any system. That would cause that way of life to most probably be continued with the kid. This is a guy who always stayed off the grid and obviously never went to a hospital or took a job that needed Social Security number or fingerprints. That's gotta be a learned behavior." "Not a lot of jobs out there like that either," Thorne pondered out loud. "Right. Also, I'm guessing it had to have been a very violent childhood. We know most serial killers had an abusive childhood. Father must have been very abusive," Brewster said. "Right. Wow, probably constantly losing jobs too, hence why they had to keep moving instead of putting roots down," Lament said. "In most cases with serial killers, the father was usually an alcoholic or drug addict, which caused the son to have a hellish roller coaster ride of violence and abuse," Reynolds said. "The mother must have died a similar way as his own victims, right in front of the boy's very eyes at a very young age. That would be my guess. The abuse and behaviors would continue afterwards, just with different women. I mean, if this guy, as a kid, was only subject to horrible experiences once, sure, it would be traumatic. But it doesn't necessarily make someone into a serial killer. If the father needed it as part of his own sick rituals, and needs, then that guy for sure was forced to deal with the same experience again and again. As a child, being weak and small, he wouldn't be able to stop his own father. Not being able to stop his father had to have caused issues for him psychologically, Thorne said. If the father used any of the same MO with this guy's mom, it makes sense he wouldn't just stop after she died. If it was the mom who died and had to be replaced, what other kinds of women are able to just pick up their lives and be fine with just joining up with a strange man and his son? Not some healthy, stable woman with loved ones and social roots. No, it would have to be some kind of transient. A prostitute, a beggar, homeless, or a drug addict, Lament said. No wonder this guy doesn't have a type. I mean, Son of Sam liked only brunettes. Levi Belfield chose only blondes, but this guy doesn't care. Any woman that catches his eye is a go for him, Thorne said. That's why you had them going back 60 years, Reynolds said. Yep, I'll bet money there are many different Jane Does at either morgues, county records, or some hospital archives somewhere across this country will show the same MO and way killed, or at least similar enough to see a pattern. Maybe, if it was the father liked it, must be who started in this suspect, then we might get a last name which will get us to our killer, Brewster exclaimed. Hopefully, CSU will come up with something too, Lament said. I'll compile a list of jobs that wouldn't need a social security number, fingerprints, or a paper trail, Thorne said. Brewster clasped his hands together in excitement. Finally! They were close to catching him. Brewster could feel it. Soon, the Bedtime Killer would be stopped for good. That was chapter 24 of The Bedtime Killer by Loren Malloy. Make sure you're following or subscribing wherever you're watching or listening to this. And if you're enjoying this book, make sure you check out this book and my 20 plus other books on Amazon. The Bedtime Killer is available in paperback and Kindle, so go check it out if you'd like. And join me again for chapter 25. I'll see you then.